Hey friends, and welcome back to this week's Self-Love Masterclass. It's so good to be with you guys again. As you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about spreading ourselves too thin. I really want to talk about this because this is something that I see happening all the time around the world, but it's something that shows up a lot with the women that I work with in my practice. And I think this is because a lot of the women that I'm working with are change makers. They're people who want to make a difference. They're people who are leaders in their communities, in their families, and everywhere in their lives, really. I think the important thing for us to sort of just deconstruct is where we got this idea that doing so much was healthy or doing so much is the ideal, what we should be trying to measure ourselves up to. In this class that I'm taking right now, it's really awesome because one of the things that we're taking a look at is how the beauty industry and how the media has constructed the narrative around what woman should be like. So what is the ideal woman and the super woman that everyone's striving to become? And what we can see is that she looks a particular way. So typically she's blonde, super thin, very fair, very attractive. And I know that things are changing, right? So we've got a lot more inclusiveness now. We're seeing lots of different people of different colors, and a little bit more now we're starting to see people of different shapes and sizes. But really, if we be perfectly honest, the ideal is still to be that super thin, blonde, perfect, young woman, right? The other thing, this is the big thing that I want to talk about, is this idea that the superwoman does it all. So she's often working multiple low-paying jobs. She's often in traditional nurturing or caregiving jobs, and she's doing it all with a smile, and she always has it together. If you're a real woman watching this, if you're a real man watching this, you know that all of this is just such baloney, right? We are not healthy when we're not taking care of ourselves. We're not healthy when we're doing multiple low-paying jobs and we don't have time for ourselves and we're overwhelmed. This idea that living this way is healthy is not healthy. And it's part of the reason why so many of us are burning out. Because we're starting to think that if I can't do it all, if I can't be this ideal, then there must be something wrong with me. And the media doesn't help, because everywhere we look, in magazines, on billboards, in movies, on Instagram and on Facebook, we see all these images of people who look like they seem to be having it all and doing it all at once. So I really want to just break through that and have you know that it's not true. People are suffering with all different kinds of issues of mental health and mental unwellness, as well as physical unwellness. And when we're going to get better is when we actually take a look at who's been pushing that message. It's been advertising and the media. And when we decide that we want to take our lives back into our own hands, when we want to exercise a sense of agency and use our voices to say we've had enough. And where that begins is with self-love. It is the self-love message. When we finally love ourselves enough to say, just a second, this isn't my narrative and that isn't my reality. My reality is one where I value myself, I take care of myself, I know what my worth is, I know that I want to be paid well, I know that I want to have balance, I know that I want to have time for myself as well as others, rather than prioritizing everyone above myself, right? So these are the things I want us to look at. So how do we do that? Well, I've talked about it already. It's first by understanding that this is a made-up narrative, a creative narrative that is being pushed by an industry that wants us to need them very badly and also wants us to do more, produce more for less. Okay, so that's the first thing. But the second thing now is us actually learning how to say no. Us actually being full enough and loving ourselves enough, having the self-esteem to know when enough is enough. So it is one thing to be overzealous, to be adventurous, to be someone who's a yes and to want to take on things. And it's another thing to be taking things on because you feel you're missing something, or because you need to be more competitive in the market, or because of something that's missing, lacking, or that you don't have enough. You are already enough just as you are. You have everything that you need. And certainly there are opportunities to develop yourself and to develop skills, but not if it's going to cost you your mental health and your well-being. Not if you have to take away from yourself in order to get something outside of yourself. And that's what this message is really about. So when you look at your to-do list today, I want you to really ask yourself, why am I doing these things? Am I doing these things because it really empowers me, or am I doing these things out of fear? Am I doing these things because I don't think that I'm enough? And if the answer is you're not enough, then it's time to work on self-love, and that ought to be your number one priority. Now, I know that we all have different circumstances, we all have different financial situations, and so some of us are more privileged than others. We can choose when to say yes and no a little bit more easily than others. But my intention in creating this video is that I hope that we can start to be more aware, and that we can start to see that it's up to us to take responsibility if we are going to change the narrative, if we are going to push back, if we are going to take a stand for ourselves, and if we are going to tell the world what our worth is rather than let the world dictate it to us. So before you leave this video, what are you gonna do? I hope you're gonna do this because I like to leave you with one action, right? It is to go and look at everything that you've got on your plate and to ask yourself why you're doing it. And if it's not for an empowering reason, it's time to figure out how you can stop doing it. And if you need help on how to figure out how to organize your life and say no to the things that ought to be no and yes to the things that ought to be yes, give me a call. I'm happy to help you. But of course, don't forget you've got friends and family and people who love you. So lean on them, use them. Don't be afraid to ask them for help too. All right, my friends, it has been such a pleasure doing this video for you. I hope you've really enjoyed it. If you did and it's been helpful, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and to share it with everybody. Your mother, your father, your dog, your cat, your boss, your friends. Like, I mean everybody. Because I think this is a message that we all really need to dial into and tune into deeply.